Welcome to So Guided, a spiritual travel guide for the curious. Join Carissa and Jenny, ordinary people exploring all the extraordinary ways we can connect to the universe. Each week, they investigate another spiritual modality and adventure through all the wild ways we can find high vibes, hope, and ultimately, enlightenment.
Hello and welcome to another episode of So Guided. Today we are talking about healers. Jenny and I were in desperate need of some healing, so we're doing a classic before and after with a healer. You've got questions, so do we. Let's do this. Hey everybody, how are you? Gonna start off with Jenny's weekly woo of the week.
Whoa. Well, first we have to say hello and thank you. This is our first ever recording since we've met you. We are adding this bonus episode to the series, if you will. And so this is the first time ever we even have gotten feedback and know what you're thinking. And we are beyond thrilled that you have joined us, and we truly are blown away by your response.
Yes.
So what's super happy, I'm guessing you're going to tell me woo-woo that relates to people that we've met in the last couple weeks since we launched. I've had awesome woo-woo stories. One of mine are intertwined, so I'll share one today. And that is a friend heard the episodes and sent me a text message and said that she hadn't heard the word synchronicity since she was a little girl. So she had one of those, you know, those generic posters that hang on a wall that's like a mountain and it says believe.
Yeah.
They're like in corporate offices. And so she had one with dolphins jumping. And
or like a kitten hanging, like hang on.
Hang tight. So hers was synchronicity. And this is when she was quite young. And she said she saw this. It was like, it's imprinted in her brain.
Just dolphins that says synchronicity?
Yes.
That's so funny.
And it's imprinted in her brain for life. And she hadn't heard it till our episode came back. And it triggered like a really deep, wonderful spiritual moment in her life in retrospect. And it was that she was in a new school. She hadn't found her footing, and she had felt kind of like she didn't have friends or a life set up yet, kind of in a shell, which is interesting because she's super outgoing now. But in any case, so she told me this just brought back so many memories, and that word brought her a beautiful moment. When she was in 4th grade, she was in a spelling bee, and she won the spelling bee with the final word that was
synchronicity.
And she knew how to spell it because of the poster.
Wow, that is synchronicity in itself. She knew
Isn't that awesome? And so she was saying that it just brought up awesome memories, and she was on a flight for a business trip and looked up the poster. She wanted to see if she could find it. Said she found it immediately, sent me the picture. I'll share it on Insta.
Yes, good.
It's cute.
Good.
And then here's the most beautiful part about connectivity and the stories we're getting from people. She sent me this message, and I got it in my phone when I walked out of my children's 4th grade spelling bee.
I love it.
She literally sent the text about winning a spelling bee and like a pivotal moment that changed her life. And she was 4th grade spelling bee, and I was at my children's 4th grade spelling bee.
Oh, it's so
and I
good.
thought, how cool, because it's like reinforcing to her story, which literally the word came true. And second was, look at how connected we all are in our stories. So like your stories you guys are sharing with us, they bring us life, by the way. And they also show like a beautiful connection.
I love it.
So cool.
Okay, before I share mine though, can you say how you really want to say synchronicity?
Oh yeah, this is really funny. So when we began, and every time I said it, you like literally couldn't handle it. Synchronicity.
Jenny
how my brain wants to say
literally says synchronicity every time, and it's so funny. But now she's like, you're like rehearsing it. And I can see your brain thinking before you say it to make sure you say synchronicity. And if I can see like your mind churning because you want to say synchronicity, and you can just say it. Say synchronicity.
Okay, if I were to pronounce it how my brain wants to, it is synchronicity. It takes so much strength to get it right.
I see your wheels churning.
It's churning.
But I feel like
Which is the irony of the story too, because literally this is something we actually, poor us, edited out, which we shouldn't have.
No.
When I said it wrong and we were dying laughing. So bringing it back, that's real. All right, your woo-woo.
Okay, so mine also relates to you guys and our friends who have been listening, and it's just so cool to like have people sharing feedback. Our goal of this podcast was literally just to have people talking about this and sharing things with us and, you know, connecting dots and being like, oh, wow, this has happened to me. And then getting and hearing those stories from other people has been such like an awesome thing for us. So one of my best friends from college, she listened and she texted me. And she was like, hey, she's like, I had a dream about your podcast last night. And she had just listened to the first episode, the signs episode. And she was basically telling me how she had a dream. And it actually involved one of our other like besties from college who's very, very religious. So she's a very religious friend. And this, our, podcast is very spiritual. And she was like, I had a dream about you guys like talking, like me and my other friend, like talking and kind of talking about the differences and how we both believe in something, but spiritual versus religion and just in general. And she's like, and how you can have both. And the word that kept repeating was duality. And she's like, and she's saying this in the text and she's like, I just kept hearing the word duality. And she's like, I don't even know if that's a word. And I was like, and so I'm going back and forth when I was like, kind of like laughing. I'm like, I feel like it's a word. I'm like, not something that I've ever really heard but hey, it makes sense. Like you can have two ways of seeing things. And so moving forward, next couple of days, I actually got some news and it was sad news. It kind of took me aback and I was a little like shocked by it. And I kept seeing the angel number 222 after I had gotten this news. And so of course, what do? When I start seeing an angel number, start seeing a repeating number, I go and I look it up and literally the meaning of what I looked up. And again, when you look these things up, you don't know what meaning you're going to get. No, like, I swear.
They're different every time.
They're different every time. And I think it's whatever you're supposed to get, you get. Whatever Google decides to throw at you or whatever you think. Like, because I literally didn't even think this is what it was going to be. But the meaning I got was think about your situation and think about the duality of your situation. And the word duality was in this meaning for the angel number. And it was basically like there are two sides. Like something you may think is sad may actually be good and vice versa. And there's duality in situations and just be present and aware of it. Right. And it was the most like spot on message I could have ever gotten for what I was like thinking and just kind of thinking about things from, different perspectives and looking at the positive, but also being able to process the negative side of things. Right. And then the fact that it had the word duality after I just had this conversation with one of my best friends about it. And so I screenshotted it, sent it to her, and she was like, mind blown. This is insane. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, it was so crazy. And if she hadn't shared and we hadn't had this, like, none of that would have happened. And it felt like we were so connected.
That is it. If we hadn't shared.
Right.
And that brings us to the point of the sharing and how connected we are. Both our stories relate to someone who was telling us something and it was cool on its own, but then it did relate. It really is kind of amazing.
I have goosebumps right now. I was thinking about it again. Like, it's so insane that, like, again, how connected we are. So awesome woo-woos. And please keep them coming. Keep sharing with us. Keep telling things. And, it brings us to our topic today. And I just mentioned how I'd gotten some sad news. And I've just been a little bit like in a funk these past couple weeks, not even weeks, probably the past week. And just, there's always the ups and downs of life. And I know, Jenny, you've kind of been in a similar...
Yeah, it's really weird. I think a lot of times, maybe it's because we're together so much, but a lot of times we go in and out together at the same time.
Yeah.
But what we decided today is we were actually going to talk about something totally different. And we decided to talk about something. We don't have a lot of info to give you guys today. It's more of a talk about actually seeking healers. And being honest about the ups and downs of this journey. So, okay, yay signs and all the happy things and all the things that bring you the happy, fun. We're getting high from our woo-woo stories. Yep. And this is all good, but we wouldn't be telling the full story if we didn't say that, of course, there's lows too.
Yeah.
And then how do we deal with them? And we both are. And it's funny because I feel like this far on the journey, I have a lot of tools in place to help me rise above quicker. And sometimes I can't. And so that's actually my honest truth today is I feel like I actually am mad at myself because I feel like I should be further along than I am right now. Like, shouldn't I be able to pull myself out of a rut? And I'll be honest, I can't really identify mine. I know you just got some sad news and I I went a little dark, and I don't know what it's all about. I feel like I'm being tested. I don't know why. And my normal tools like meditating or gratitude, I'm pulling on them and they're not working. So we wanted to talk honestly about the moments when you find yourself low and what next. And by the way, you're not alone when it happens. Sometimes there's something that sends you dark. Sometimes like an actual news you heard, or it's something that you can't even explain. And this is a part of the process. It's real.
Yeah. And it's, it's kind of weird is like, because we have embraced this and we've like really are trying and we've used a lot of these tools and we're very like focused on this and we do believe, you do kind of get mad at yourself a little bit. And it's not fair, because here's the thing, we're 100% human. And as a human, you're supposed to experience highs and lows. Like you can't always be up and this is great and everything's woo-woo and wonderful. Like there is an element of realness and like that we have to, you can be sad, you can be down, you can be in a funk. And I feel like it's so weird though, because like I actually get like more like annoyed with myself, or even on my kids. Like sometimes I'll get like annoyed with my kids and yell, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be above this. And I'm like, no, I'm still human. I'm still going to react as such. So I feel like it's like this spirituality or this like these things we're doing do add a little bit of a layer of guilt when you do not fall off, but when you do have more of a human experience, which I'm saying this now so I can like give me and Jenny and everyone else like permission to be human. And like I'm reminding myself about this, because instead of like getting mad at ourselves for not being able to meditate or not taking the tools and utilizing them, also just take a breath and like give yourself a break.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Well, it's an evolution, and it would be boring as shit if we did just say, oh, we evolved on our 2-year journey and we're done. Like this is going to be till the last dying breath. So highs and lows. And what we know to be true, but sometimes like I've said this, like I want to punch my own self in the face for this comment that I'm going to say, but the lows teach us the lessons that make us grow. And I know this in my heart and soul. So when these moments happen, I should know better. We're shitting on ourselves.
Oh, the worst word.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Worst word in the world. But no, it sucks when you find yourself here.
Yeah.
But this is when you could say, I'm seeking help.
Yes.
So here are my tools that I usually lean into. My gratitude and meditation are my go-tos. Sometimes writing, I'm off and on. And none of these are working right now. I've tried them all. And this is really unusual for me, like with the meditating. Like that's usually I'll find peace and that's out.
Yeah.
So you and I are pursuing a healer.
Yeah.
We decided this is truly, if we're being honest, of course we're reporting back to you guys, but this one is for reals for us right now. We are going to seek outside help. So I'm curious if you guys have done this. Have you sought out a healer in alternative medicine or in a spiritual way? And did it help? And this is kind of where we're going next week is, can this help us get out of our rut we're feeling right now? And we're seeking someone else who is educated in the craft to give us this healing.
Right. And I think what we can share too is when we were thinking about doing a healer, our original thought for even today's podcast was to kind of share what we thought the healer was going to do. And like talk about those different tools. And as you guys know, we're not experts. So we're like, how are we going to talk about the tools? Let's just share about like why we're doing this and what we can hope to gain. Because Jenny and I, and when we say healers, it can be span the gamut. Like even a medium could be a healer to some.
That's so true.
It can be these quote unquote shamans. It can be psychics. Like I feel like a healer is anybody that can help you like reconnect to yourself and maybe move, whether you have a blockage or a stuck energy. I mean, all the different things, like there's a million different tools that are out there that can help people. And so we've been to some different ones in the past. And like, I feel like even the ones that we've been to at some point, like we didn't even know that we were going to quote unquote healers. But when we left or after we left the session, we're like, oh my God, I feel changed. I feel different. And one of them, like we both been to separately, we went to a similar lady and I feel like she was magic. She was absolutely...
She was an angel on earth.
She was an angel on earth magic. And I went to her and basically, she used a whole different skew of things. She did Reiki, she did sound bowls, she did crystals. And then she also used her own energy and like her own, I think she did some shamanism in there. Like she was well trained in a couple different modalities. And she basically took an hour and worked on where I had blockage. And when I went to her, it was soon after I had a miscarriage, and I was very blocked, and she was able to see. I'm not familiar with the chakras, and we'll have to talk about that another day. But like she basically shared I had a chakra that was like very blocked, and she could feel it, and she spent time on it. And I honestly felt she was like going, this is gonna be a lot for our audience, but like she was literally sending me mentally into like my ovaries for like healing and like telling me to focus on it. I could feel energy. And one of the things that she said was, which I always remember, I thought was so cool, it was the entire map of like the world is inside of you, like how the seed of an apple creates the apple tree. That's like the same like inside, like, you know, as a woman.
This
like
vision you had during
No, this is what she was saying. And she was like, so go in there. Basically, you have to heal your own like self, because you can heal yourself from the inside, is how she was portraying it. And like, again, she said it much more elegantly. She said it, but basically what it did was she allowed me to like, I was in a very meditative state. She was focusing on areas like where I had blockage or where I need to change, and like bringing me to certain parts of my body, and then took me on this journey. And during the journey, she was like walking me through it, and she actually was like, talk to this deer. She's like, do you get a message? And she said she saw the animal. I was there. And like she took me up this like tree.
Can we pause at the deer? She said deer when you saw a deer.
Yes, 100%. That's
as if she was in your mind.
Yes, well that's what this is.
So you did not say the word deer.
No, I didn't. No, this is what's so crazy. So she was like walking me through, after like I'd gone through parts of my body and she had focused. She was like taking me through like a journey. And she's also very focused on plant energies. And so she was like taking me in like earth medicine. So again, healers, she spanned the gamut, but they all kind of do. And this woman was, you know, focused on that. And basically she took me to picture a tree, and I had to picture whatever kind of tree I wanted. And then she's like, oh, there's an animal. She's like, there's a deer there. She's like, speak to the deer, ask if they have any messages for you. It was amazing. And after, I can't remember what the message was, but I probably have it written down somewhere, but it was very moving at the time. Whatever it was like, it felt like it was coming from another realm, and it felt like it was a message. Afterwards, when I was done, I felt lighter. I felt completely lighter, but also grounded. I felt completely in my body. I felt different. And I was asking her, I was like, wow, like that was so amazing. And I'm like, how did you know? How did you see? Did you see? Do people always get animals? Did you? And she's like, oh no. She's like, people usually don't get animals. She's like, I just saw that you were seeing a deer. And I was like, this is
okay. Nuts. You guys know already that one of your animals is a deer. So you know this is wild for
It was
Carissa.
insane.
Yes.
And the fact that she saw, I almost like in a weird way thought like that was just typical. You know, nothing's typical. Yeah. But she was like, oh no, that's very rare. She's like, I could just see. And I was like, oh my God, this woman's in my mind. So she was, again, she's the upper echelon of healers and like what you can do. But like the experience itself, I think can be very, very different in whatever I needed that at the time. And so again, we are looking kind of for not the same person, because we're going to somebody different, and we'll share our after, but we're looking for some sort of recalibration, or I am, you know, I just need kind of to get recentered and to figure out what maybe she can offer or bring me to. Because I think what they do is they like use their magic, or their like quote unquote magic, to like kind of bring you into yourself. Like I feel like you're doing a lot of your own healing.
I think so, but I think it is interesting the different sources they tap into of what they have in their arsenal. Yeah. It's like they have a magic bag of tricks, right? And it's like, okay, to match your need for healing, it's going to be different every time. And a perfect example is I went to the same person you went to on your recommendation, and I had a completely different healing from her. And she went through different things. I did not see an animal. Yeah. We just talked about how I don't see things. Yeah. So mine wasn't visual. I felt very in my body. She is very chakra oriented, because I felt her go through each one of my chakras, and she works her way through you like that. And so for me, you explained it really well, very body oriented, but I had work in what was my confidence, my solar plexus chakra. And she spent a lot of time there, and I felt orange and light and glowy. And I had like a light show when I was getting my healing.
Oh, wow.
So this is the exact same person pulling out different tricks. She did sound healing, lots of vibrations, and the bowls were actually physically put on my body, because I was laying on my stomach on a massage table. So the bowls were on each chakra vibrating. So she had a lot of different things. But what's interesting is though our journey with this person was different, our result was the same.
Yes.
So when I left, I wasn't the same human who went in. I don't know how else to say it, not to be dramatic, but I walked out different.
Yeah.
And we're on the constant hunt for that again. Like when I left, you couldn't have said it better. I was one with whatever the otherworldly elements are. Like I felt light and airy and very in tune with what was around me.
Yeah.
But so safe and grounded in myself. But what she said I had to work on was confidence and walking kind of through a portal that was before me to just let myself be in the world. And it was right when we were preparing for this because I did it more recently.
Yeah.
She completely tuned into my fears. And like, if we're being honest, I think a part of why I'm a little bit dark right now is we stepped through this idea to share our thoughts with the world. And even though it's so well received, I'm still scared every day that we're talking about this stuff.
Oh, me too.
And my comfort level wavers. And I think I'm a little bit afraid. And I kind of have to say that because that was what she was working on. And the day that she worked on it with me, I've never felt more loving of myself. I left, and this is nothing I'd ever say about myself. I am the meanest self-talker in the world. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I don't say smart things or like whatever that mean talk is. I left and I'm like, I'm effing awesome. I love that. Like I walked through, we were at a resort. There was a spiritual getaway, if we're being honest. I walked through that resort like I was like a shining sun.
Yeah, you are,
and I felt it in my heart and soul. And the thing is with the healing is this one lasted for like a month. God. It lasted for a month.
It does. It did.
But I will always, this one like planted a forever wish that like we keep finding this. I need this.
Yes.
And I would like to return to it almost like you'd return to acupuncture or a therapist. I'd love to find someone near us.
Yes.
Who we could return to just like you do that. Like someone just get my, if it's the chakra thing, get me recalibrated. Great word choice, by the way.
Thank you.
If it's that one of them is blocked, spend time on it. Make me feel confident again.
Right.
Make me believe in, talking to people and sharing our heartache and our happy and our woo-woo. Like, I don't know. I need it.
I know. Well, it's so funny because I had 100% went to this lady first and thought she was like the best of the best and like made Jenny go to her. I had built it up so much. And then you're like, this can't be as good as it is. And it is. And I think the only thing I want to share, which is so funny. So we were going to do one of our classic before and after episodes where Jenny was going to go to her and she was going to share the exact experience. So we were talking about it before and I shared what this lady does and how it works. And then after Jenny was going to talk about it. And so we did the whole episode. So we recorded it and it was amazing. We shared the details and we thought it was so awesome. Well, of all the recordings we've done, and we've done lots. It completely glitched and did not work. It stopped recording. It never went. Like we were all like proud, like this is so cool. But what we realized is we had used her name. We had used all this like information about her because we were so high on her, and we're obsessed with her. Like literally, like I gave her a gift afterwards. I think that's how obsessed I am with her. But like I feel like we probably crossed a boundary, and I think like so we were lightly talking about her and what she has done though, and she has motivated us and shown us that there is that type of help out there. And so we did find somebody here in our neck of the woods, not at a spiritual resort, at down the road, who offers something like this as well. And it does seem like she's going to use a bunch of different modalities. Like she's got on her site like the Reiki and the crystals and the sound healing and she incorporates astrology. And so there's never been a better time than like right now for us. Yeah. And when we were talking about this last night, we're like, oh, good, we're going to do a before and after of her healing. And then we're like, oh my God, like outside before and after, like how bad do we need this? Right. And so that's why we tweaked this whole episode. We're like, let's just talk about how like sometimes you do need the reinforcement, I guess, of some help. So
I agree. And like I said, like, of course, we are going to talk about a million tools to seek it yourself and things we could do on our own. It doesn't always have to cost money or going to someone. But right now, this is actually what we need. And it's not coincidence that this was what we were up next to chat about. And I can't wait. Now we're putting this is the only thing I feel really bad for this person because we just talked about our favorite human in the world. So that's not a fairy.
Yeah.
We have to lighten, back it up. But honestly, here's my goal on it. If I just feel a smidgen better.
Me too.
And just realign, recalibrate. And if I just lightly say that would be enough, and it really would.
It would be.
I just kind of am a little bit off, a little thrown off. And if I walk out feeling recalibrated, I'm happy. I don't know what tools she's going to do. So we're going to come back, and rather than get into our emotional nitty gritty, or we'll see. We just kind of want to tell you what she pulled out of her bag of tricks. And if it worked, do we feel better?
Well, and I think, again, you're in like a little bit of like me and you are always separate but together. Like we're always parallel. So I think you're just like looking for a little bit of like a release or some blockage. And I think I'm looking hopefully for some, help obviously to get grounded, because I feel like I've been kind of all over the place, high anxiety lately. And with my news, I think I need help processing. I think everyone, I've talked about losing a baby, and, I'm at a point now where I'm kind of at probably where I've always kind of contemplating if I would have another baby or try. And I think we're kind of at a point now where it's not going to happen. And so I have to kind of process that, like, this is, it's at the end. We were, figuring out stuff, talking to doctors, doing things. And we're like, you know what? It's really like, it's kind of at the end, like we're done. And so I feel like I need help processing that. And like, it seems like it was kind of an abrupt end to like a journey I was on. So,
and honestly, you found out through medical information. So it was, the choice felt taken away from
100%.
you. So now you need to process what the universe gave you as the answer, which I'm actually, I'm like taken aback, and I'm so effing proud of you right now, because this is a hard topic for you. And the fact that you just shared, by the way,
thank you.
Bestie side note. I'm so proud of you. But I think that was like something that we do seek to do, is to, some of the stuff, like, I hope we never sound flippant. It's so serious. And I think if we ever sound light talking about it, it's actually because we don't want to make you like, you're driving in your car, you're sitting at home, and you're like, oh gosh, now I need something to make me happy after this. So we do talk lightly through it. And
such a good point.
I have to tell you, when we're not on this chat right now, I'm going to hang up. I'm going to hang up your phone. I'm going to, hit end on the microphone, and I'm going to hug you. And we're about to talk for 2 hours about this.
Right.
So I just want you to know that when we do talk lightly, if you ever want to hear more about something, we are, full disclosure, open to you, but we're never flippant. This is a very, very serious thing for you. And I'm very proud of you for sharing it. And it's heavier than what you're even letting on.
Yes.
And this is, if you can't tell people, like, what a beautiful timing. You literally got this news after we booked this. So this is again, not a coincidence, and it's much needed for you. I think one thing that we're going to all bear witness to, and everyone's going to listen through the course of this season, that this is your major theme. This is a theme of your life, not just your season of right now. So this is something you'll hear as one of your themes of life. This.
Well, and thank you for saying that, because, thank you for acknowledging, or saying that it's so big and it's so serious. And I know I brushed through it a little bit, and I feel like that's a defense mechanism of my own.
Totally.
And we don't want to make it not a doom and gloom, but we're not trying to sit here and sob story, but it is. It's I don't know. When we talk about losing a baby, it's that is, I mean, it's been crippling to me. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not, and I just say it I don't want to come across we're saying it it's a, like I said, a huge part of my life, and what I'm working on all the time. And, I'm, the tears that have been shed, and even with this, it's and that's why in my woo-woo story, and even today when I got that duality, it kind of came to me where it's of course I was so sad, I can't believe there's an end to it. But then it was the message was almost okay, every end is a beginning too. So maybe if I, instead of again, holding on to this idea of maybe having another baby or whatever, maybe it's just, there's just a lot to process there. And so I feel I appreciate you saying how it's in telling everyone that we're not flippant about it.
Absolutely.
I feel we don't mean to. No. I never want to come across like that, because it's so meaningful. And I just, I feel I'm guarded with it, and quick here on it, because I also don't want to start bawling in the middle of it.
I also think our intention is to focus on the healing, and to focus on the tools and the things to bring lightness into it. And that is why we're kind of quicker about it. But I think people who are listening would actually relate very much. There's always a day when you have to decide whether you've had the loss associated or not. It's very, very strong feminine subject that's approached.
Yes.
Or even if you don't at all. I was just on a vacation with multiple friends, and for whatever reason, collectively in the group, there was a few that won't be able to have children this go around and at all. And we were talking about it. It's something that everyone deals with, is the day that you have to say, is this what I've chosen?
Right.
So I think it's real, and I think it's raw. And if you're one of those, we are sending like so much love and support.
Yes, for love.
And we are hoping
all the journey around it.
Yes, so much
Kids,
love. Like
kids, yeah.
like literally, I'm imagining a ball of like beautiful, loving light, and I'm sending it right now to you. And I also recommend that if you need to, move through this, there are ways. Of course, by the way, we're always focusing on spiritual, but because we landed on something that was so serious, I have to mention that therapy with a licensed therapist is the number one route to go. But I think these are amazing, beautiful supplements, and they speak to the spirit in us, not just our brain processing it. So next week, let's go to the place of spirit healing, and let's see where we come out. Am I feeling a little better? Now mine sounds fucking light as shit. I'm just feeling wah, wah, wah.
Jenny's in a bad mood.
Oh my God.
Okie dokie.
This is killing me.
Sorry, we're trying to light it up.
We're trying to light it, but actually,
it's all
this
real.
is making me laugh. Jenny's moody. And Chris is dealing with a life.
Chris has a life trauma. Jenny's in a
trauma.
bad mood. No, I was kidding.
Well, in any case, there you go, both ends of the spectrum. But we will report back, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
This one.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, we just did our readings, our healings, we should say.
Yes.
And we went separately. We've learned over time that it's not the best to do it right after, we think, because we need time to process a little bit. So we've both gone but have not told each other the stories, which is impossible, FYI, to not call each other the minute we leave.
Yeah.
But we did it. We did it. And here we are. So I went first. And I went to the woman's studio, and just to set the stage for you, she is absolutely darling. Mm-hmm. She is a young mom. She is darling and beautiful, big blue eyes, blonde hair, just like a sweet, you would not expect her to be pulling all these tricks out of her hat, but truly a kind person who immediately puts you at ease.
Great energy.
You walk in the room.
Yeah.
It is like we were talking about in the medium episode, how there's an energy with a psychic or a healer of any sort. I walked in the room and I had like goosebumps. Yeah. Her energy was so good.
Well, we talk about even in science, how you can read vibes on people.
Holy
and people
cow.
Can be good vibes. And she just had such a warm vibe. Just very warm, very inviting, just very comfortable. You instantly felt I felt comfortable going on.
I felt like we could have been having coffee or wine together the way we talked.
Right.
It was so natural and wonderful.
I know. I wanted to be my friend.
I tried to by the end I was like wooing her. I was like, can you train me one-on-one on stuff? Anyway,
I was like, do you want to hang out with me? I didn't, but I almost did.
But that's how much we liked her. So just to set the stage,
which is good because we both liked her. So we didn't talk about how we we felt the same. Which is good.
Same to same as my sister used to say when she was little. Same to same. Anyway, so I could look around the room and I could tell she has a bag of tricks. She is her magician tools all over. There is a massage table where I know that Reiki and other healings happen. She has a desk in the room with her computer, my birth charts pulled up. There's areas of the room where there's Tibetan bowls and lots of crystals, and I see multiple tarot decks. So there's a lot of things I could see she's going to pull from. This is a 2-hour session, so I know we're basically getting through a lot. 2 hours is more than our normal.
I've never done anything for 2 hours.
It was really awesome because there wasn't a sense of urgency. Like I know you and I are always like, I want my full hour's worth, right?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like
calmed me.
Yeah. No, I feel like sometimes if you're on like a 60-minute window, if they go off on a tangent or tell you something, you're like, stop talking about that. I want to talk about me. Like I feel like you're wasting my minutes. But I didn't feel that this way. I feel like she was actually me too. Yeah. I feel like I had plenty of time, and so if we went off on a little bit of like a question or answer session or something that was different than where I thought I was going to go, it was totally fine. We had plenty of time.
Right. Mm-hmm. So first off, we sat down at her desk, and the way I interpreted it was that it was like we did a birth chart therapy session. That's what it felt like to me. Like I was at a therapist who was educated in my background versus with my birth chart. And we talked through it. It was very natural, very conversational. And unlike some of our other readings, she put it out there in layman's terms. So when the planet with the junction of the whatever happened, she really explained it, which I loved. I felt like it was really put on my level in my terms. So right off the bat, and I had decided not to get in the minutia of my life for the sake of our listeners, but when I came in, she pre-tapped into my energy before I came in and had off the bat hit four things that were going on that day in my life. And all of them were correct.
Give me a good one.
All right. So my children, they're like so chill. My kids are very chill, easy children and pretty calm, pretty quiet. They lately are miserable. I don't know what's going on. They're very needy. Isabel needs me in the middle of the night. She keeps coming in my room. Oliver's crying before he goes to school, like in a mood. They're very tumultuous about going to school, wrapping up the year. Bella's even said the word depression to me lately. Like, anyway, things that are just not typical in our house or my babies. Anyway, that morning in particular, both of them were a mess. Before we went out the door, I had to like pump them up and say, here's my love. My loving energy goes with you to school. Anyway, that happened this morning. And so the first thing she said is when she tapped into my energy, she goes, I know your children are normally very chill children, but are they super needy right now? You're like really needing to mom them more than normal right now. And that had just happened. So I thought that was very like, wow.
Yeah. Got you right in the
right. So she got me.
Yeah.
She got me. So anywho, so we got into the birth chart, which I'll be honest, wasn't something that I was hoping for because we've done birth charts.
Right. And I don't think of birth chart as a healing tool.
No.
Like that was where I never thought of it. But in this situation, the way she used it, it did actually give me comfort.
Right.
Or it did give me information, which helped me process and think about things.
Totally.
So I was actually the same way when I first saw it. I was like, uh-oh, we're doing a birth chart. And I was kind of like, oh, I thought like I didn't, and I was nervous. I'm like, this isn't what I thought I was going to be getting. She weaved it in. And
it was woven in. That's great
and I think it was used in a healing way. It felt very much like the information she took from it and what she said was spot on, and it made me like process things differently. So it
was a birth chart therapy session.
Yeah, I love that.
That was it. And so it was done in such a different way than it had been presented. And I loved it.
Yeah,
so she got into stuff, and then things I thought I knew about my birth chart, she had new information, but that was a part of her intuition.
Yeah.
She's insanely intuitive. She's just not reading a chart. She's so tapped into you. So for the purpose of our convo, like I said, I don't want the minutia, but what I will say is I did my normal nerdiness, and before I went in, I wrote my healing wishes for today. So I had 4 kind of themes that I wanted.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Nice prep. I didn't do any of this.
Oh, girlfriend. You know me.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
All right, go.
You're going to be analytical in yours. I'm going to put a wish list forward before. Okay. That's our 2 little nerdiness approaches, right?
Okay.
Right. Okay. So first I said to connect to my guardian angel, tell me they're actually there. This is always my intention.
Yeah, I love
you
that.
Know this. Second, get feedback on my crossroads. We do feel a crossroads. For me personally, it's how much to keep investing in my day job, my work job, and how much to free up for potential of us to investigate this podcast further in the future. And it's a true crossroads feeling for me. And I don't know the answer. So that was genuinely like, could we address that?
I love that.
For the healing portion, I've been really triggered lately with relationships, friendships, mistrust, and rejection and triggers on that. And it's literally in my life right this week. And it was what I was dark about last week that I alluded to, that I was kind of in a dark place. Yeah. And then in that healing was to really work on self-love and self-confidence to get through the relationship issues. So that was the healing I wished for.
This is good.
I know. I'm pretty intense.
No, I love this.
All right.
I'm loving this.
And then last...
Darn, I wish you had told me to prep.
Well, come on.
This is good.
Have you ever heard me go in and not do it?
I love this.
Fourth.
This.
This is the last one. Was the inner work was what I should be pursuing spiritually. This is my same question every time I go somewhere anyway. And it is that I want guidance. Should I be trying to get into tarot cards? Should I just keep doing my meditating and that's where I receive information? Should I be doing something I've never done in my life or heard of? So that's always a question I have. This is it. These are my 4 questions. And when we sit down, she's like, all right, I'm going to get into this. And first of all, by the way, I am wooed by anyone who takes control of me. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, of course I do.
So she was like not like putting it on me, like, what do you want to talk about? I loved her complete, beautiful, and gentle control of the flow of the event. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh my God. Yeah. I 100% agree. I overthink. We're like, what questions do you have? And I'm like, I don't want to waste my question. She didn't actually ask me any of that. She owned the entire session of what we were doing next. And I never had to think. It was amazing. So
exactly.
Yes, love.
Same.
Good point.
So interestingly, I had mentioned that I had this and my intuition said, you know what? I'm not going to show it to you. Because she's like, do you want to pull it out? And I said, no.
Oh, because you told her you had this list.
I told her I had this list and I actually took a picture on my phone. So I could reference it if I needed to. Didn't need to. I knew that she was so on point that I was not going to pull out this list. And here's the best part of the story. The theme of my entire thing was all 4 of my hits. All 4. All 4 were hit.
Oh my God.
I've never had this in anything that I could remember. Everyone was brought up organically on her own. So the first thing is that she sees on my chart that in this exact moment, in the way that we don't understand on the pie chart of our houses and all that, a planet was on a planet that was on a planet that is abnormal, triggering my friendship, mistrust, and relationship line. And it must be a massive theme in my life right now.
Wow. Which is like happening like this time frame of your life.
Exactly right now.
Wow.
And it was this moment, but one of the things I had started to process in the week on my own was I really realized that I have a hard time putting full faith in friendships and relationships, and they trigger me. And I am, this, like I'm a very social person, but I actually withdraw a lot. And so it was triggered right now because of where the planets were, but it's a lifelong theme, but right now was specifically triggered. And that was literally one of my things that I had gone dark about last week. Like we've said, sometimes the craziest thing is you don't even need to like have an answer of what next. The ability to see that it's not just me and this was something I'm supposed to work through comforted me.
100%.
In its own way, it heals me by just saying, okay, this is exactly one of the lessons you put on your path. That's just
it. And like, this is what's meant to be. Like what's meant to be right now is you to feel this. Yes. You can heal through it. You can feel it. You can like grow from it. I love that. And so to hear, like, that is what's so healing about it. It's so knowing that it's like written in the stars for you to, it's so cool. Literally. So and that's what I think the birth chart hits the nail on the head of like healing. You're like, oh.
And she was like, it's triggered right now. And this is a lifelong thing I'm working through, but right now it's triggered. So that was so accurate. I'm in. I'm invested in this session.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Her other thing was that I was in a massive crossroads. Literally the word she used, and I'm showing Carissa in my notebook the word crossroads. Like she referenced it. And what was very cool, and it wasn't the advice I was expecting, was I very much should keep going on my journey with my day job, and that it's very important, and that I continue it. And the other job, which we all know is kind of secretive still, and honestly, if we're being honest with you guys, we haven't like hit the gas pedal sharing this with people yet. We really haven't. We kind of are quiet on purpose, and there's a day we're almost ready to ramp up more. And the day isn't today. We love our little right now-ness of ourselves. But in any case, she said, and I loved this, first that my job in design was super important, and it was more in line with my spirituality than I thought.
I love that.
And that she said bringing beauty and comfort. She said, you have a unique thing that other, that's your special design talent is. She's like, you can bring out the quirkiness of someone's personality and find it in ways other people can't, and make sure it comes out in design. So she said people feel at home where you created for them and not untouchable pretty. It's like you are supposed to do this too, which was really beautiful and affirming. And she said, and I loved this because obviously I want to connect to my guides. It's one of my lifelong goals. Yeah. It's like my guides are talking to me, not just the person. She kept referencing my guides. Your guides are telling me. And this really comforted me. She said, your guides are telling you and this isn't on my plate right now, you absolutely need to hire someone right now. That's how you're about to get through the next year. You have to hire someone again. And she knew that I had someone, and she went on maternity leave. So I lost my assistant, and now I have someone remotely helping me. She's like, oh, no. Your guides are telling me right now, you need to let yourself invest in the beauty of what you love to do. And someone needs to come in who's ready to rock and roll. She said I needed a Virgo. And that needed to be my new assistant, and to go find one right this minute.
Wow.
So I loved action item. And then she addressed our podcasts as this, that it had, she's literally saw in my chart, and then her intuitive hit that we were giving birth to something. And she saw a 9-month gestation, like literally where it was more quiet and soft. And then there was a moment of, here it is. And in my planets apparently supporting this, for 2 years, I've been in the planetary alignment of wanting to be hidden. She says it makes sense that you were hidden for a year creating this and recording this quietly. It makes sense you're not going full out blasting this to the world. She said you're not actually even fully ready yet. And that I've been in the place is secret. I think I mentioned once before on the show that I even went off Instagram for my business. Like, she's like, all of this makes sense. I did validate her. You know me. I'm always a validator when she says it, because I also believe you could get the most out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Once you
believe it, then
let's dig in.
That's how I feel too. Once I feel like I trust that they're not just throwing things out, then I'm like, well, yeah, I want to give you validation so you know you're on the right track to keep going.
1,000,000,000%.
I feel like that's
so. Yeah. So she said that, and the planets were truly in alignment to go touch the world. And wherever my planets are, I'm probably not saying it right, whatever the next transition for my next 2 years is, she literally looked up the timing. It's March of next year. So mark it on your calendar. Don't know what it means. I go into Leo, where I'm ready to shine, be in the light, be a leader, all these things that are in the light, which is absolutely the opposite of my last 2 years. And I'm not fully there yet, but that was happening. So she actually saw, like, yes, you have and she knew without me saying. I did not say that I was busy. I did not say I had massive projects. She said, you have bigger projects than you usually work on. You're like outside your comfort zone you have large projects with many moving parts. And like, she knew that.
Amazing.
So crazy on point. So that was awesome. That was so cool. And then once we did all of that, you're going to love this.
So excited.
She only pulled 2 tarot cards for me.
Okay.
And they were the High Priestess and the Magician. And she said, you are the High Priestess. You need to she's like, you're in your toolkit. You're in your Magician's toolkit. You got really busy doing things and, trying hard, being dewy, being worky. And you need to come back to your High Priestess.
Oh my God. The fact that she pulled the High Priestess.
You guys. I mean, we just shared this recently too. This is what I get this card pulled all the time.
That was in the medium. We talked about that. Your medium did that too. That was the one thing that validated the medium.
Yes. And then the High Priestess, which I had never heard from another reader, is connected to the moon. That's like the moon connection.
That's cool.
Which is really, really awesome. So that obviously was a hit for me. Then she moves me to her table where I lie my back and I get a healing treatment, which I had never done Reiki. We won't get into that massively because I feel like that's its own episode. And honestly, one day we will get guests, guys, and experts. And it's not us just Googling things.
Right.
That's Reiki. Reiki is not something I understand yet, but I will say this. When I closed my eyes, I instantly felt an energy of where she was standing in the room. Whatever energy she turned on, I felt it behind me with my eyes closed.
Yes.
So then the lights go low in the room. I'm lying on the table. She did put crystals on a couple parts of my body.
Yep.
And for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, I have no sense of time. She went from head to toe doing a Reiki healing, and I could feel different energies. It felt different when she was around my head and my eyes and around this, like the upper part of my body. And then it felt very spiritual to me and celestial. I saw stars and space, and I was traveling. Like it was like I was traveling through the solar system was what it felt like to me. And then when we got from the neck down, as her energies went down, I just was more in my body. I felt healing and grounding, and very similar to acupuncture, where it felt like maybe I was being aligned chakra-wise, just really like soothing and comforting. And I was in my body. When she was up near my head, I was in my head. Gets down to my toes, and I'm super chill. Very acupuncture vibes. Loved it. And then she comes with her final bonus, which I've asked nothing of this on my wish list. Your guides, who I asked to speak, are yelling at me that you are supposed to pursue healing. You are supposed to pursue healing. She said, I don't know if it's me or I have a teacher mentor that I'm going to text you her number. I think you need to meet with her. And I'm hearing this right now. And she said, she's a shaman. This is a very different thing. And you need, first of all, just go to her. Go to her as shaman. So Avi, on our to-do list, loves, we're going. But she also, out of nowhere, said, it's time for me to start pursuing some form of healing for me to give others one day. And it's time to find my teacher, which another psychic told me this summer I would find my teacher. So this whole session, beginning to end, blew my mind. Everything I asked of my 4 happened amazing. Organically without me saying. I have the goosebumps telling you, I felt so supported. I felt so guided. This was really, truly special. And I walked out. What was our purpose? It was called a healing. Did I walk out feeling healed? I did. I felt in alignment. I felt like answers came through. And I walked out feeling like if I walked in at a 5, I was a 10 plus.
Wow. I love that. Well, I feel like you also it sounds like you feel healed because she validated so much.
So much.
And she validated why things are happening. Mm-hmm. And then to answer the questions that you're on, like basically the right path.
Totally.
So
I loved it. Okay. I'm obviously happy with mine, and I've talked. I meant to keep it short, and it didn't stay short. My bad.
No, I feel like that was super interesting.
Okay.
I'm like so intrigued. Well, and it's awesome because as usual, ours were so different, even though the same person.
I love it.
But there were some similarities. So, basically, okay. So I didn't go in prepared, and I didn't. I think we talked about this that. I didn't really have super high expectations. I didn't have a list of things I wanted to get. I just wanted to feel a little better.
To feel better.
Yeah, I just wanted to feel, I was hoping that whatever I needed, I would get without putting expectations as to what that meant. And so just like you said, going in there, her vibe was awesome and I felt immediately supported. You set the stage what it was. She had me sit and I almost there was a couple of chairs that looked comfy and then there was a chair right at her desk. So I went to sit in the comfy chairs and she's like, oh no, come sit over here at the desk. So I sat at the desk and she had my birth chart out and she didn't even have my birth chart out because she didn't have my time of birth. Oh. So she went to pull it. She's like, oh, what's your time of birth? And we were talking and she complimented my ring. She's like, oh, I love your ring. She's like, I keep staring at it. And I was wearing
your grandma's ring?
Yeah, but it's not my grandma that I always speak of. It's my dad's mom. Okay. So the grandma I always speak of is my grandma, who's my mom's mom, who I'm very close to. And then my dad's mom is this ring I wear, who was a very different type of grandma. She wasn't in my life she was in my life, but just I didn't have the same connection that I had with my mom's mom. But she was like, oh, she's like, is that your, grandma's ring? I'm like, oh, it's my grandma's ring. She's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. I love it. I'm so drawn to it. She's like, what stone is it? We're kind of having small talk. And then she got my birth chart up and she's like looking at it. She actually said, she's like, oh my God, I've never seen a birth chart like this. She's like, I love it. And so I always feel, you always feel special. And I was like, oh,
I didn't get that. You'll be happy to know.
Yeah,
I did not
She's
hear
like, oh my God. She's like, your chart is really, she's like, this is amazing. So I was like, all right, great. And so she started looking at it. And then she was like, actually, she's like, I have to close this. She's like, I'm getting so much not using your chart right now. She's like, I just want to hear from your guide. She's like, I feel like I'm getting a grandmother present.
Stop it right
now. I'm not kidding. She's like, I'm getting a grandmother present, but I'm not getting, she's like, is the grandma that ring, is that your mom's mom? And I was like, no. She's like, I'm getting a maternal grandma. She's like, but I'm not getting the same energy from that ring. And I was like, it's because it's not. She almost knew that the grandma she was getting was not the grandma.
That's how in tune
and that was really cool. She's like, I'm not getting that.
Ooh, that's real good.
And then she's like, was your grandma really tall? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh my God, your grandma is saying, oh, I think she's got a tall presence, which is funny because she's was in the room. And so at first I was like, is she just I was kind of trying to see, is she grasping what's going on? But then she got me so good. She's like, oh my God, your other grandma is here too. And she's like, but she's got a very different energy. She's like, this is so funny. She's like, I don't want to this not to be insulting, but I'm getting more a cold energy. Oh. And she was she was just a different kind of grandma, very proper. Oh. My other grandma was so warm and loving. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. I'm like, she's never come through in anything we've done. And she started talking. And I feel like some of the messages she was getting, having both of my grandmas there, was so interesting. And she started talking about the maternal line of how my daughter is like my mom and I was like my grandma, which I've thought about before, and how we're so weaved in, but how my grandma on my other side basically came through to say that she did things. She brought in like generational healing, which I've talked to you about before, where I feel like I've had this. I think it's so cool. Like there's a theme of generational. You get things passed down to you without even meaning in generations and generations. It's just, and she was talking about this, and basically she was sharing how.
Pause though. This is interesting, just so I could share it. You've always been interested in this subject and these words, so this is very interesting that specifically came through your grandma.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and so. Basically, and of course, obviously, with what I deal with loss and like as a mom, bringing in like a mother conversation is so on point for me. Totally. You know, it's like a very different, and I feel like talking about my daughter who is very much like my mom. And so she even said, she's like, your daughter is, she's like, I know all kids are meant to be, but you were so connected and meant to be with your daughter to like learn from each other. Okay. You guys are very much soulmates who have like agreed to like learn from one another. And it was just really neat. And one of the things that, again, what I thought was so spot on was how she described my other grandma, and how my other grandma mentioned that she had the way that she was raised and how she raised her. She even said, did your grandma have all boys? And I was like, yes, she did. And she says she didn't do everything right, but because she was very much in that era, like not allowing for emotion. And what this did, what she said was like, that is why like your dad growing up was much more lack of emotion, which I've never even talked about. And I've never wouldn't have said, and honestly, it's so funny, even in all of our conversations and all of like my healing has been very much centered on the past couple of years based on like what has happened recently. And I don't talk or think about like how childhood plays into where we are today. Which is truly important. And that's interesting. We've stayed in this niche for you right here. We need to get you out of it. Right. But she brought up childhood, and she even said, did you like grow up in poverty? And I'm like, well, I don't know about poverty, but I like wasn't allowed to get like cheese on a hamburger at McDonald's because it was too expensive. And we like started, she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, that's what she's like, you're in your like, you know, you've grown in that area, and like there wasn't like an emotional, like a lot of emotional support on your dad's side because of how your grandma says. And she's saying the way you parent your boys is changing that. She's like, and your grandma wants to acknowledge that you are changing because you are all about your boys having emotion and having feelings and being allowed. And she's saying that she's like, are you? I'm like, oh my god, all I do is sing to my boys, like it's okay to cry, it's okay to be like. And so it was so spot on. And so, okay, so fast forward, she's like, all right, let's go to your birth chart. And she did bring up the birth chart. But I said to her, I'm like, it's so interesting. And anything I've ever done, like my dad has like never come up. And she made a good point. She's like, well, maybe you've never been ready to like hear. She's like, and your grandma maybe has never come through. Okay. Maybe that's never been something that you've been ready because you've been focused on other things. And this could be an evolution. And she was very much like, again, I've talked about this before to you. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, so because it sounds a little bit egregious in a way to me, and this is probably part of my birth chart, but she said, she's like, where my planets are, she's like, you attract abundance. You are actually very much attracting abundance, but you also have a planet that thinks that you don't deserve it, or it could be taken away from you at any time. She's like, and that has a lot to do with your childhood. She's like, so as much as you bring stuff to you at any given time, you're like, oh my God, it could be taken away. And she's like, so you have this battle. And she's like, and what you have to do is, she's like, you have to release that. And you have to like, your guides are like screaming, just shine your light. It's all coming. It can, she's like, instead of thinking it's all going to be taken away, she's like, it can get bigger. And that's what's going to happen. And so I was like, oh my God. And I think that's what I just struggle with a lot, is like fear of taking on too much or having too much, or feeling like you don't deserve it, or whatever it is. Not even deserve, but it's just like, but the fact again, that was like something that's part of my chart that she saw was unbelievable.
And this is actually a true characteristic of yours.
Yeah.
This is, we have to like circle back. So one thing that I'm feeling like when she was saying like your dad didn't come up and that stuff, that part of your life we haven't even seen in your healing yet, is really beautiful to what you actually were down about last week or this past week. It sounds to me that instead of wishing for one more or dealing with the loss of not having one more, is to celebrate and live into what your grandma came through saying, yay, you. Look what you've done. So instead of looking at lack, is looking at your abundance in children. Yes. And that you healed the ancestral issue with the boys, and you've already done it. I feel like
I love that.
I feel like a message of healing that came through for you is to celebrate what you have done instead of look what you could have done next.
Yeah, oh wow, man. Real time again. Real time epiphany is happening.
Do you hear what I'm saying?
100%. I totally get it.
Okay.
It's the exact thing of how you can look at lack or abundance. And it's funny, like that is, it resonated, like that resonates in such a big way, but it resonates in such a small way because my husband would be like, oh, let's do this. And I'm like, we can't do that. Like, we can't get a pool or we can't do this.
No.
Like, why? Or like, little things. I'm always so, it was super, super interesting how she like was spot on with that and how she was saying that like with, again, where my plants are, like I'm a builder. And she's like, you've built things. She's like, it seems like you built things in your career. And she did say, there's more you're building. She's like, you are about to enter like a different time in your life.
Okay.
And she said, for the past 2 years, someone like yours 2 years. And she flat out said, you and Jenny have a similar arc, which is so interesting. She's like, your birth charts are matched. You have a similar arc. She's like, but for the past 2 years, you've been like in your job, like working, like probably not getting as much appreciation, just kind of slodging through while you've been trying to figure out like what is happening. And now it's time to move forward. And you're still going to do what you need to do as far as like your day job and that can build, but you can be open for so much more. And what she said, which was fascinating, is she's like, I need to tell you this. Your guys are telling me to tell you this. She's like, in 5 to 7 years is going to be the epitome. And she didn't say the most of anything. She's like, it's the most abundant. She's like, it's just like, and she's like, it could be the most soul growth. It could be like the most like abundance of wealth and happiness. And I'm telling you that because they want you to realize that like, it's not like things are like you get to an age and things are over, that there's still more to come. And so she's like, so it's like, so it was really cool. Cause I actually feel like that a lot. Like, oh my God, what else is there? Like not like what else is there? I'm not like, but you have like all these great things in your life. You're like, how could it get better? Or like, again, a part of me thinks I already got so much. I feel like now it's going to be cut off.
Right.
Instead of feeling like, no, it can actually grow and abundant. And so there was a lot of, that was like the theme of mine, is like allowing for that. And she kept saying, she repeated this many times and I've heard this before and I love it. What's meant for you will never miss you. And that was a theme she kept coming through with a lot. And then she also said surrender forward a lot. This all came through in like the first session. Then the same thing, I got on the table with Reiki. And she did the crystals, she did the gong, like with the crystal balls. And like, I felt like, honestly, I felt so grounded. Like, you know that movie Get Out where the guy like sinks into like the under, you may not have seen it. It's an amazing movie. It's like a horror movie, but it's like the guy like goes in, long story short, you die, you like basically, I felt like I couldn't move. I felt like I was like literally just in a trance, but like my body was so heavy and I could feel energy swirling and moving wherever she put her hands.
Yes. For sure.
And it was awesome. And so, and afterwards, and she hadn't pulled any cards or anything for me up to that point. And then afterwards, we finished the Reiki session and I felt good. And I asked her, like, well, what were you kind of seeing or feeling like when you had it? I'm always asking questions afterwards. And one of the things she said was that a lot of times during Reiki, she like cuts a lot of cords.
Yes.
I didn't cut any cords for you. She's like, I don't feel like there's any cords to be cut to move forward. She's like, she said she spent a lot of time in my heart, basically sending love. And she didn't say like self-love, but that's kind of intuitively what I got to myself and just like moving the energy around that was like stagnant so that I can move forward. And this was really cool. She's like, I was just trying to move your energy so you can like shine your light. She's like, that's what I want to shine light. And the entire time I was on the table, like in my trance, that's all I kept hearing was shine your light. And I was like, no, that's what I heard. Like same thing. The words she said were, and like shine your light wasn't like the theme of what we had happened before,
So
it came up very strong and very amazing. So afterwards, like I just felt lighter. I felt very supported, very guided, same thing. And with that, like the birth chart being tied into it, I felt like she had a map of where I was going and was able to use kind of her tools to then to make me feel like I'm on the right track. And again, like things are meant to happen, are going to happen. I don't know. I thought it was fantastic. And I felt great.
You guys see?
Yeah.
We will always tell you the good and the bad. And this is one of those that honestly, we don't go into everyone and come out with the best results. So there are true healers.
I'm raising my hand because I thought of something else. This is so crazy. And I was going to tell you afterwards, but I'm going to tell you now. One of the other things I got, and you're going to be like, oh my God. But I got, during it multiple times with her, in my head, I was getting my own hit of that you 100% are supposed to channel my grandma.
Oh gosh, you've always said that.
It came to me again.
Okay.
It came to me in Reiki. Like I'm telling you. I think my grandma, and I think I can get there, but that came through again. You came up in mine, and I was thinking of you.
All right. Well, and you shouldn't be thinking about me and your healing.
Why?
In the best way.
Oh, I should
think
be
about you.
No, but
So I'm saying
I think
it's
about
a
people the
message
whole
to
time.
take
Yeah.
note of.
There's multiple
You
people I
have
was
to take
thinking.
note of what comes into your head.
Oh my God.
Well, that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
No, and I feel like even when I'm healing, I'm not like all about myself. I feel like everyone's coming up. Do you not? Are you all about yourself when you're in those things?
Kinda.
Really? Oh my God. I have like every single person I know coming up in different ways.
No.
That's so interesting.
No. Well, it makes sense. My chart is about my whole life, where my house, my planets, my everything is self-discovery.
It's so
when
true.
I'm in those, unless someone brings up a subject, they bring up Belle, I'm going to talk about Belle and be so excited about it, or whomever.
It's so interesting. You know, which actually makes sense too, because you know what she said? She says I was a hub. So, and that's why she didn't cut cords. Like, you are a hub with all these connections.
Oh, wow.
Which makes sense why I would constantly think about all these other people when I'm in this stuff versus how you're all about the self.
I love it. I
It's
love
so
it.
good.
Well, we did do a true healer. This is one of those that we couldn't up talk more. This is the pursuit of doing it. Like you said the words that you just felt you were on the right path when you left. And that in itself is a healing nugget.
It is healing. That's exactly what it is. That's what it is.
So I love this. We're never going to stop exploring different types of healing.
She did say too, which I loved, is at the end, she was like, just so you know, your chart, and she said your chart too, because you had went the day before. So she had just seen Jenny's chart, and Jenny, I think, mentioned that like we were friends, and I did too. So she like knew to like bring it up. But she said, she's like, you both are investigators. And she's like, you both are able. She's like, you guys are both investigators. She's like, and there's a dynamic there where you can help more people learn and know. She brought it up at the end. She's like, it is supported here for people to like learn from you guys because you're going to share. And I was like, oh my God. And I love that she said investigators. You're always like, we got to
investigate and evidence.
Yeah,
They're like words we use.
Literally used that word to me. Like, again, that was completely unsolicited. I didn't ask. I actually even asked Jenny after the fact. I'm like, did you tell her about the podcast? You know me, all tight-lipped.
Yes.
And like, but she was very much like knew a passion project and thought that was in there. So it was great.
Yeah. And she didn't go heavy on it, even though she had that nugget of knowledge.
No.
So anyway, this is a thumbs up. This is a double thumbs up. It's just amazing. So I will tell you this. I found an article online about remote healers.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to put a link in the show notes.
Okay.
Because we can't obviously recommend this person to everyone who's not local. But I am also going to put the local healer in our show notes because she is wonderful and I couldn't recommend her enough. But yet again, you guys have listened to the minutia of our life in the after part, and we appreciate it. And one of the reasons we do share it all, I think if we don't share with you,
there's way more minutia.
Oh, there's way more. we're gonna hit stop, and then we're gonna get into the minutia. But thank you for listening, and I think that's a part of what we're like trying to really show is not to be boring and show all our details. If you hear the themes that keep coming up in our life over and over again, I'm hoping it awakens you to see that you have your own themes and different people, different healers. We're going to go to a million different things, you guys. If the same themes in strangers keeps coming up about us, there's some truth to this. And I hope you find yours.
Yes.
And that's the point of today. And thank you for listening.
Well, and hopefully, just to add one more thing, our belief hopefully will remind you that you have the same support.
Exactly.
I feel like that's it.
Exactly.
Like if we can find this and find people, like everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, 1,000,000%. Yes. Okay. Here you go. Here's our guide. Do it with us. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We've loved being your spiritual travel guides and hope this made you feel more connected. Please leave a review on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast player. Your reviews help us create the guide that you are looking for. We'd also love to hear your stories.
You can follow and share your experiences with us on Instagram at So Guided Podcast. Your story might just be our next weekly woo-woo. Join us again next week as we continue to dig deeper into the universe. And remember, stay curious, ask the questions. You are so guided.